So I want to thank you again for joining me for this discussion on reciprocity and what does it mean for you. Um, this is a word I think that requires a deeper understanding and exploration to see how it really benefits our lives and in every facet of our lives. So my name is Greg McNeil, and I want to thank you all for joining me today. And so now then what we'll do is we'll move to the next slide then, and we'll start um, with the definition of reciprocity. And so one of the things that I want to do right off the bat, before we begin, I want to let you know that so we're going to start with an American Psychological Association definition of reciprocity. But it's important to let you know that we are using a framework, right? This is one framework for the definition of reciprocity. So I wanted to make that clear. So then, according to American Psychological Association, their definition, reciprocity is a process of exchanging things with others to gain a mutual benefit. A social norm where if someone does something for you, you feel obligated to return the favor. Two-way street, give and take are phrases used to describe our understanding of reciprocity under this particular framework. All right. Let me move this out of the way. So one of the things that um, I find particularly important to take note of is the role that socialization plays in our understanding of what we think reciprocity is. So today we have people on the webinar from different places on the planet. And so our socialization then is going to really determine how we relate to this word. So let us jump back in to the APA definition. So, according to the American Psychological Association definition, the norm of reciprocity operates on the sense of obligation. That's a key word under this system, a sense of obligation. People tend to feel obligated to return favors after someone has done a favor for them. In the Western model, reciprocity is categorized into three types: generalized, balanced, and negative reciprocity. An example of those would be, so when it comes to generalized reciprocity, we're generally talking about family, maybe friends that we have, where we pretty much know what we are doing with each other, what our relationships are in terms of the give and take. And then we move to the category that they call balanced. I would associate this more with, I would say, more intimate relationships, friends, uh, work relationships, where what we do with each other and how we interact is much more critical. And then, of course, we have what they call negative reciprocity. Well, this one here is essentially saying someone has not held up their end of the bargain, their end of the deal, or whatever that is. Now, marketing is another feature of reciprocity under this model, you know, marketing. So everywhere you go, um, department stores, are you going to purchase automobiles? You name it. Marketing is designed to influence us to a degree, right? To make certain purchases. And let's just say on a certain level, we don't really have a challenge with that. But if you go back in and you take a look at the word of obligation, it tends to give you some understanding of where we're going. Like, what does the feeling of obligation bring up for you when you think about reciprocity? Now, I can tell you that most people probably are going to struggle with that, right? Because there's something about obligation um, that creates a challenging dynamic. And so one of the questions that I like to ask is, if we're angling for influence, if we're trying to make a deal, there's some type of partnership that we want to establish, we should make that clear. What is it that we're asking for in our relationship with other people? Because the clearer that communication is, the better our understanding of reciprocity is going to be. So another question is, what was reciprocity before it had a name? So we have people here from different places on the planet, right? So what was reciprocity called before we gave it this 15th century name? What was it? I'd like to offer a different view for us today, that reciprocity really is about a vital relationship between entities that cannot exist without the other. And this is where I really want to focus your attention. So when I ask you to consider the relationship that we have with trees, grass, the environment, and the sunlight, these are essential for our existence and our ability to um, thrive. But we often make assumptions about our environment. We wake up, we get dressed, we move throughout our day. We don't really think about the quality of the air that we breathe that much. We don't really think about the relationship between the trees, the grass, the sunlight, that whole dynamic relationship. But let's suppose that you are a person that struggles with some type of general medical condition. Maybe you struggle with some type of reactive airway disease. You have asthma or some other type of dynamic. You find out then when you go outside into the environment, if there's something going on with the air quality, you're going to notice immediately, which is to say that a person in that situation is not going to make any assumptions about the air that they breathe, about the environment, because they have a much more intimate relationship with it. And this is something that's really important for us. I also want to go back in on another point that's important for us to consider: socialization, where we come from, where we are in the world. These two are also going to impact how we relate to this term reciprocity. And what do I mean by that? So let's just say in the West, right? The West is known to be an individualistic culture. So it's all about the individual. So when you hear a word like vital and not being able to exist without, that may be a challenge for a person who is conditioned under that particular framework, because they might be thinking, well, wait a minute, what about my independence and these types of things? Well, just to be clear, when we're talking about reciprocity, we're not challenging a person's individual identity, their individuation. What we're saying is that relationships that help us to thrive are vital. And that's something that we really want to be clear about, right? Um, so, what type of relationships do you form? That's a question for you as we move through this. Okay, so I touched on this briefly. I touched on marketing, strategy, feelings of obligation, that these should not be confused with reciprocity, at least not from my perspective. Let me be clear about that, right? To me, these terms are transactional and they're associated with things like sales, undue customer influence, or other dynamics that strain and cause negative impacts in our relationship. Again, all forms of relationship are fall under what we call reciprocity. And we want to remember that reciprocity is essential, it's mutual. So when we form our relationships with one another, that partnership is really critical for us. And what type of partnership are we talking about? It doesn't really matter. If we're talking about employer employee relationships, family relationships, intimate one-on-one relationships, best friend relationships. What we're saying is that relationship dynamic, what we give and share with one another, is crucial for those relationships to thrive. Okay, so here in this question, I just want to ask you, what does reciprocity look like for you? If this is a word that comes to your mind, right? Like, what would it look like for you? So, one of the things that I like to highlight is that when it comes to reciprocity, we are not required to see the world the same way to engage in reciprocity. And what do I mean by that? So, this is why I have an example for you. I want you to take a look closely at this image of the soil food web. And if you can see these clearly, you see a bunch of different types of organisms, right? Beneath the surface. All of these organisms have a role to play in the formation of what we call soil, or what happens below the ground. And what's critical in this relationship is what they provide is needed by the other organisms that create soil, have to create soil for us. But they don't give each other the same things. And this is key in reciprocity. They give one another what is needed to make the environment thrive. So in reciprocity, we do not give people what we think they need. We give people what they are asking for. And this is really critical, right? It's like, hey, this is not what I think you need. Tell me what you need so I can make sure that you have this. And what you see in this example, then, everything that is taking place beneath the surface in this environment makes it possible for us to experience the life that we live above ground, right? And I certainly hope this makes sense to you. And so when we get into the question and answer section, let me know if there's something that we may have missed. But something again for you to consider when you look at this image, everything that you see in this image has a part to play in creating the soil food web, of which we benefit from on so many different levels, whether we're farmers, right? Whether we just like to play outside, whether we are children that like to play in the dirt, or we're just simply people that love the benefit of fresh air and sunshine. So reciprocity, then, when you look at it from this image, from the soil food web, you can see then that we are connected to so many other entities, people, places. And this is really all about what can we do to improve these relationships. So reciprocity is not just something that we do for other people, it's something that we do for ourselves. But I think we want to make sure to remember that we're not talking about a bargain here. We're not talking about a deal. We're talking about giving one another what they actually need in order to thrive. So, for instance, let me take employer employee relationship, supervisor supervisee relationships, and all of those types of dynamics that can happen in a workplace, in our organizations. Typically, then, let's just say you have a department, you might have 12 people in that department that are working. But all of those people in that department that are working, they think differently. They see the world differently. They come from different backgrounds. They have different motivations, different approaches, a different vision for life, yet they might all work within the same environment. So, in that case, then, if you are a leader in that environment, if you are the employer in that environment, then how do we work with this particular staff so that everybody thrives, that they perform at the highest level? right? Like again, you're seeing this image. Everything that you see in this image is thriving because they're each giving one another what they need, right? Not what we think they need. So if we go back again to the workplace environment, how are we going to handle all of the different employees that think differently, that move differently, that have different frameworks? When we create a standard in our workplace to make sure that our employees are going to be able to meet that standard, in what way then, as leaders in our organizations, do we ensure that the employee has everything that they need to thrive in that work environment so that we create the reciprocity? Because although we may think that getting paid for the wages is a great deal, that's not necessarily reciprocity. Ask an employee how they feel about going to work, the conditions under which they work under, and then you start to get a sense of what reciprocity really looks like in an organization, because people love going to work. They're on time, they perform at a higher levels, and you tend to retain employees in environments that are reciprocal in nature. Now, I'm talking about a workplace example here, but this also applies to the environment that we have with ourselves. How do you treat yourself in terms of reciprocity? Are you kind to yourself? Or do you use language that makes you feel less than, that causes you to struggle and may end up in some form spilling over into your other environments, workplace, family, interpersonal, you name it. And then, of course, how are we handling those those interpersonal relationships that we have, what we call those deep loving relationships that we have? What does reciprocity look like in those relationships for you? Are we giving those partners what they need from us in the relationship, or are we giving them what we think they should have? These are all very important to consider, because we really live in an interconnected environment. And this picture that you see here, although we may not always be looking underground to see what's there, but everything that's underground is connected to us, just like everything above ground is. And when we understand that, then we start to appreciate more what this relationship needs to look like so that everybody will be able to thrive. And so you see below, there are questions here. What are your needs? What are the needs of others that you are in relationship with? In what way do you help those people you're in relationship with thrive? And in what way do they help you to thrive? How would you know if that relationship is reciprocal? Not the bargain, right? So remember, we wanted to leave the marketing, we wanted to leave the sales, we wanted to leave that framework alone, because that one, it makes us feel obligated. If we're in situations in which we feel obligated, then we're probably challenged, and you might want to really consider the nature of that relationship. Okay. So we're going to get to the last slide here. I think I was told that we needed to be able to get through this in 30 minutes, and I think we're going to be able to make that time. Okay, so a deeper understanding of reciprocity is going to be essential for us when it comes to improving the relationships that we have with ourselves, when it comes to the unresolved dynamics. What does that mean? So let's just say, for instance, do we have confidence problems? Do we have self-worth challenges, right? Are there areas in our lives where we feel less capable? Well, if those types of things are happening for us, then in what way are we going to help ourselves to turn that around? In order to be able to do that, we're going to have to develop a more reciprocal relationship with ourselves, one that is loving, one that is informed based on who we are, what we know about ourselves, and our desire to continue to improve so that our lives reflects the true vision that we want. A deeper understanding of reciprocity is also going to improve our relationships with other people. And it's also going to enhance intimacy in our relationships through accurate identification of needs, which is really important, right? Because so many times in our relationship, this is an area where we can struggle. We can struggle saying, hey, this is what I need in relationship because we think we might experience rejection. But let me take you back to the idea of what's happening when you step outside, the grass, the trees, the environment all around you. That environment is essential. We have to have it. We have to have everything that's in that environment. So when it comes to our relationships, we're really doing the same thing. We're saying, hey, look, this is where I'm coming from. And so when we are connecting with one another, part of what we're doing is making sure that we are real clear about who we are, where we come from, what our needs are, and what we are capable of providing to other people. And when we're in this space, this is going to really help the quality of our relationships. And then for those of us who are in leadership positions, um, uh, a deeper understanding of reciprocity is really going to help increase your leadership energy, your magnetism, because now you will have employees, uh, co-workers, other people around you that get it. It's like, hey, look, this guy, this lady here, they are really about making sure that we all thrive in this place, regardless of where you are within the company, the organization that you're within. People who feel like they are seen by their leadership, they tend to thrive. And those people in leadership who make it possible for their employees to thrive are going to have successful businesses. And then finally, um, a deeper understanding of reciprocity is going to be essential to opening up a portal for deeper healing in our lives, um, from all areas and aspects. Okay, family. So this is going to be it for us today, right? This is the last slide. Um, that I have for you today. So I want to say thank you, and I want to leave time for any questions and answers that anyone may have for me. And I'm going to stop sharing this slide unless somebody wants to see it. Uh-oh.
Good
Are we
evening.
all are we still here? Okay.
Yes, yes, sir. How's it going?
Wonderful, wonderful, sir.
Fantastic. My name is Katleo, and I just want to say thank you for the talk, man. I really do appreciate it. Um, I do have a question though, with regards to how do you really balance it out in a family where somebody's like uh the giver and they don't really usually get as much. So like how in that situation, how would you balance it out?
So one of the things that I like to say to the people that I serve is, there's absolutely nothing wrong with providing services to other people. Help them feel supported in any way that you can. But you want to remember, we can't neglect the needs that we have, right? So if you're seeing this background behind me, this is a desert picture here in Tucson, Arizona. You see all different types of vegetation here. In this background, then everybody is going to get what they need in order to thrive. So I would like to say that the person that likes to give, although it is an outstanding quality and trait, we have to remember that we need to receive some of that. So now we're touching on something that I like to call courage. Because if we're not used to asking for what we need, then we need courage here. It doesn't mean that we're going to get in an argument or these types of things, but it's something as simple as, hey, thank you so much. I really love helping and supporting you, but could you help me with this? This is what I need. Can you help me with that? And we give that person an opportunity. Now, here is the courage. One, to ask for what we need, and two, to be very clear about what we may need to do if we find that someone else is not able to help meet our needs. Are you with me so far?
100%. I'm with you. I'm with you.
Okay. Okay, good. So
Yeah.
now in relationship, just like when you look at the weather outside, some days we
Mm.
can have storms, it could be windy, some days it could be hot, really intensely hot. This can happen to us in relationships sometime, especially
Yes.
if we are not used to some of the changes that we may have to incorporate in our lives. Okay. And so this is
Mm.
where it's like, well, look, this is what I need. This is really important to me. So if I'm going to say to you, sir, so if you know that you're already giving, you know the space that you're coming from. So what we're really saying is, are you able to help me with
Yeah.
this? Because this helps me to thrive in
Mm.
relationship with you. So we give the other
Mm.
person an opportunity to hear us clearly about what we need. And we
Yeah.
give them a chance to see whether or not if they can move with integrity and compassion and all these other things, right? Because anyone that's just taking and taking and taking is not engaging in reciprocity. And as you can see in this background picture
Yeah.
behind me, that does not exist, right?
Yeah. 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 100%.
Yeah.
So at
So
that
go
point,
ahead.
no,
Go
so
ahead.
so I was saying, so at that point when you're not getting anything back, you're saying that, it's the point where you should see yourself kind of taking yourself out of that situation and try to pursue something different, or, you know, get into an environment that will also benefit you.
Fantastic. I love the part about the environment. Absolutely. We want to be in an environment that supports us. In terms of what we
Mm.
may have to do, I just like to say this. In relationship, someone knows, the partner knows if they're meeting our needs. We're not talking
Mm.
about a mystery here. Most of
Mm.
us have said, hey, can you help me with this? Can
Mm.
you help me with this? Like, how many times do we raise his hand? Right? So I'm not an
Yeah.
advocate
Yeah.
for impulsive action, but I am an advocate for being clear and then decisive if need
Mm.
be. And that may
Yeah.
be something that
Yeah.
we touch on later because I'm just jumping in here today. So I plan on doing more of these webinars and things
Mm.
like this. Um, so we can go deeper into that, especially for those of you who may be in, relationships other than employee-employer relationship, right? But just
Yeah.
remember, everybody has a right to thrive.
Yeah.
Everybody has a right to thrive. That's why I'll ask you again, take a look at this background behind me. Everything that you see in
Mm.
this image is thriving. There is nothing in this environment that is doing
Yeah.
without. And that's a key point, right? In reciprocity, we don't do without.
Mm.
We don't bargain, right? We don't minimize.
Mm.
We don't cross our fingers.
Mhm.
We don't do any of that. It's like, no, this is what you need. This is what you're
Yeah.
going to get. Yes, sir.
Hi, hi everybody.
I didn't get that last part. Okay.
Sorry,
Oh,
Yo.
sorry, Katlego, for cutting you off. Hi everybody. Hi, doctor. Thank you so much for that. It was very insightful. I have a question too, just to piggyback off what Katlego said. Was talking about with family, right? So let's say in a situation where we're all in the same level, let's say me and my sister, me and my cousin, me and my brother, whoever the case may be, we're all in the same level and they thrive, right? They win. right? And I remain in that position where I was in the first place. And now they keep on giving onto me, and I don't have the means to give back. Like, where do we find the balance in that type of cases?
Oh, wonderful. So one of the things that I was saying, like let me see here. I want to go back to this image and I want to share this image if I can. Um, um, can everybody see this image here? Uh, the soil food web. Can you see this image all right?
Yes, we can.
Wait a
Yes, we
minute.
can.
Oh,
Yes, we
okay, let me
can.
go back. Okay. So one of the things I want you to take a look at. You see everything underneath the surface? They're all have something to contribute, and they will all receive something in return. But what it looks like is going to be different. So in this case, now I want you to help me because I want to make sure that I don't miss the point that you're making. But when I think about reciprocity, I'm going to just take this screen down again. Okay. So what you're asking for me is something that I'm going to give to you because that's what you need. But what I need from you may be very different. This is reciprocity. So let's just say, for instance, if we're talking about family members, and let's just say the family members may have more material means than you have at the moment, and they have been helping you that way. And you may feel as though, well, I don't actually have the material means to repay you. That's okay. Love works, consistency in relationship works. Asking, what can I do? How might I be able to support you um, until, if we're talking about material means, I'm in a position to be able to give you something back that way if that's what they're asking. Again, this is where the nature of the relationship is really important for us because what we give and receive is really going to be different. So let me give another example. Let's just say a person borrows some money. The person that lent the money is not really concerned about whether or not if they get paid back in cash. They don't care about that because they lent the money to the person because they care about them. They like them. They're close. So if their relationship is still a good relationship, then the person that let's say like loaned the money, they're actually not thinking about that really, right? Because they already know what the financial situation is. The
Yeah.
challenge often emerges when people start to avoid,
Mm.
right? When we start to feel like we need to avoid that person because it's like, here they come and I don't have the money. What the am I going to do? That type of thing. Um, but I would just
Okay.
say, if I'm answering your question, that in reciprocity, there's so many things that we can do to demonstrate our appreciation for other people, even if what we give to them may be different in terms of what we received. So I'm going to give another example here. I gave you $500 and you're not really sure when you're going to be able to give that back to me. Okay. But you know what you did? It's like, hey, you know what? I was cooking the other day and I made this and I made this thing for you. Guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to eat the food and I'm going to say, thank you so much, right? Because you're there. You gave me something that I needed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Stay with me, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
How was that feeling for you?
No, I hear you. I hear you, and it makes sense. I hear because now it's like finding that balance where it's like, okay, I also need to give the way you also giving to me. Not realizing that there are other factors involved in me giving than just money.
Exactly.
You know.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I totally get it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. I think most of us will find that give me a great relationship and I can deal with the cash situation, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yes.
absolutely.
Yes. All right. Thank you, Doctor.
Absolutely. And please don't hesitate, right? Anyone else? Any other questions? Well, if there are no other questions, then I want to say thank you so much for this opportunity. And I would just say too, when we're thinking about what we're talking about today, what is reciprocity? I want you to take a real broad view before you zoom in, right? And I want to really focus on the areas where we can miss, as it were. So, all of you that are listening to me at some point, so if you're, well, some of you who are talking to me from the continent, so it's dark there, so you may not go out at night, right? But let's just say the next time you go out in the daylight, take a look around you. Before you get in the car to drive to work or whatever you do, take a look around you. Make sure that you smell the air, right? Because that's really a practice that we want to get used to. We want to get used to noticing things, right? Because that's one of the challenges that we can have with reciprocity. We may not notice what's important, right? And remember, what's important to you may not
Mm,
be important to me. What's important to me may not be important to you. So what
mm,
we're doing is making sure that in this place, what is needed, everything that you see in this background behind me, right, is doing that same thing. Everybody is making sure that in their communication, everybody has what they need to thrive. And so for those of us who are above ground, those of us who like to be called human, right? We want to make sure that we don't make the assumptions of assuming that everything is where it needs to be. So
mm,
that so this is the practice. Reciprocity is a practice. If I want to be good to you, then I'm going to make sure that I'm in the place of practice so that when you speak to me, right, I'm giving you one of these. I'm giving you words of love and encouragement. This is what you're going to get from me, right? And when we're doing that, we start to feel better because we realize, no, we don't see the world the same way. That's not the issue. If I give you what you need and you're giving me what I need, now we start to move. Um, and it kind of helps the world go round. um, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to say, um, please let me know if you have any more questions. Uh, you can also reach out to me through my website, which is now available at coachescorner.com. Um, I want to thank Leonore for making sure that that is up and available so that you can reach me anyway if you have any questions. Um, I plan on continuing to do some more webinars in the future. So uh, unless there are any more questions, that will conclude our time for today.
I'd like to just weigh in and appreciate your beginning presentation about lining up reciprocity in a more authentic way than what we've been socialized, because it is at the baseline of relationships and interactions. And, so much of who we are has been the product of socialization. And I think when you said making sure that people get what they need and that you're giving what they need, you can only do that by learning who they are, finding out who they are, developing a base of communication that opens up the opportunity. And those aren't necessarily normatives, and so I just appreciate that you reminded us that we get to define and understand what words we've learned and then apply them in ways that matter to us. So thank you for that.
Ashe. Yes,
Mm,
ma'am. Ma'am. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I
definitely
just,
very nice.
oh, wait a minute. Go ahead, ma'am.
Betty. Oh,
Hello?
oh,
Yes,
sorry.
I'm here.
No, I wasn't saying anything. I wasn't saying anything.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I I
No,
I
no, thank you.
I wanted to say something, yo.
Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I just want to say I appreciate your talk. This was so good. Really had really got me thinking about things differently. And yeah, man, really do appreciate it. I hope you really do more though. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely, sir. Absolutely. I love to think differently. So I like to tell my clients when you're working with me, I'm going to take you where the Western Road is.
All right. All right. Appreciate it, man. So much. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you all, everyone, for this opportunity to join you in this space. And I look forward to seeing you with more content soon.